I ain't the kind who wear a tie, button up from 9 to 5. I tried that life but said goodbye. I'm not always polite, but I get the job done. Who says the world can never be fun? I'm simply unprofessional. Simply unprofessional. Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of Simply Unprofessional. I'm your host, Webby. Joining me tonight, we got Rob.
Hey, everybody, it's Rob.
And we got Devin.
Hey, Devin. I hear.
And we got special guest Avelos.
Yet again, the check's in the mail, right?
Yeah, you owe us. Hopefully put it in the mail for us. We can't afford stamps here at SU.
PayPal is a thing.
I mean, yeah, we'll send you 10 cents via PayPal, and then PayPal will take their cut, and you'll end up with like
Venmo us. Just Venmo us.
You heard it first here. Cheap asses try to pay for special guests by 10 cents. Continue.
I mean, we usually pay based on the quality of the guest.
If you'd like to earn 10 cents, please contact us at Simply Unprofessional.
I mean, like if it was like Bill Murray, we shell out at least a quarter.
That's true.
Oh, okay. So he's like, we're diverging anyway.
Yeah,
it wouldn't be SU. We weren't diverging.
So before we get into this week's SU, we had a few weeks ago we had talked about something, and then I had brought it up to Ross, a little bit before that. But I just recently brought it up to Ross. So Ross Boyd does our intro music for us, and he did the outro music and everything. He's a great friend. And Devin, you had made an offhand comment about how neat it would be to have the SU intro music done in a different genre, essentially. So I pitched this idea to him, and he's fucking super excited. And he asked me for just a couple examples for him to start working on first. So, maybe in the future here soon, I might just toss in a random SU intro that's in a various different genre. I think, Devin, you said you wanted like cheesy porno music genre.
Yep, and then slow jazz.
I did tell him smooth jazz because I fucking hate smooth jazz. And what else I tell him? I told him my Rob voted for like a Disney cartoon intro kind of thing, like just Disney music. I told him I wanted to hear the SU intro in like a. Now these might sound like two very different styles of music, but I mean to me they're similar enough. But like a Beastie Boys or like a Run DMC style.
I'm with it.
Yeah.
There are two very different styles, but I'm with it.
Yeah. So that's something that's going to be in the works.
I wasn't asked. I would have given you a really good example.
Listen, you're a special guest, but what genre would you have chosen?
So everybody, we all know Webby's thoughts on this, and you'll understand when I say next. I feel like an animated entrance music where the music is really hype and gets you ready to go, like you're in a fight. Like I love those songs. Like Linkin Park songs are good as an example. That's not necessarily tied to an anime.
Okay, I like Linkin Park. I'm gonna have him do a Nickelback version of the SU intro theme.
How dare you? You just went from
what? What's wrong with Nickelback?
Why do people hate Nickelback? He did nothing wrong.
Yeah,
right. But on the internet, everybody hates him. So you went.
I don't know why. It's like it's irrational. It's irrational hate. He did nothing wrong.
Oh, that's true. Just everyone hate. There's got to be a reference somewhere. I don't know.
There's not. It is irrational hate. I was around for it. Same thing with Guy Fieri. People just hate Guy Fieri for no reason.
Also, the reason we didn't ask you, Avelos, is because you would have asked for $1 for your ideas, and that would have bankrupted our entire year.
Yeah, actually, we would not have been able to afford any other special guests.
My hourly rate is over $30 an hour, so
Well, how long have we been going for? About 5 minutes. K. Avelos, that was nice of you to join us. You need to get out now. We can't afford you.
All right, bye everybody.
All right, so this week we're going to be talking about the Legends of Vox Machina animated series on Amazon Prime Video. They currently have 6 episodes out, and they've been releasing them 3 episodes each week on Friday. They have, I believe, 6 episodes left because they're going to be doing 12 episodes for this, and they've already been renewed for another season.
Yes.
So,
how many episodes are they doing? I think you're right. I think it's 12.
So you're looking at another 3 episodes come by the time you guys are listening to this. The new 3 episodes should be out, and then 3 more episodes for the first season next Friday. Now, I think I'm the only one who's actually watched the first arc or first campaign of Critical Role on Twitch. They started off at Geek and Sundry, and then they kind of snowballed and became their own entity. And they play Thursday nights at, I think, 10 p.m. Eastern on Twitch. They are currently on their 3rd campaign arc, I guess is what they're calling it. The Legends of Vox Machina animated series follows, right now, one of the arcs in their first campaign. It's the Briarwood arc, essentially. Now, not having seen the playthrough on Twitch originally, what are your guys' thoughts on the animated series? Let's start with Avelos.
Well, so I love animated series, but I love stories in animation anyway. So like I'm already at like a 5 out of 10, as long as it's good and it does its audience well. So I will say it's not made for like your teenagers, which is automatically bumped it up like a couple more points for me, because if you can kill your party, not the party, but like the animated party in the beginning, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You automatically are at a different scale. It's refreshing. It's something that it's like when you go to see like a stand-up comic, almost like they break the fourth wall a lot, like or that deal, and I feel like it has the same effect on me. Besides that, the animations are great. Some of the spells because I am a wizard lover of the magics, they've done a lot of those very well, I think. Yeah, I just like it.
All right. Rob, what about you?
Just my thoughts on the whole thing.
Yeah, like not having seen them play through this arc on Twitch, just this is essentially your first real dive into what their campaign 1 is. Is this animated series? Like, what are your thoughts on, do you feel like you're missing out on story?
I didn't, but then when you brought up things, I was like, oh, well, see, I wouldn't have gotten that unless you told me that happened. So, like, there's things in there that unless you watched it, you wouldn't realize are things. Like their hatred for doors, like, because they brought it up, but you didn't, like, because you said there was a whole issue where they're trying to break into a door before, like, a long time ago, and then other things, like, there's certain things in there that you don't, like, if you haven't seen it, you wouldn't get, but, like, things that you've told me, like her trying to talk to the tree or whatever when the tree roots, but the guy grabs her beforehand, and you were like, oh,
well, they probably still will have that, because that is kind of an impactful thing in the arc. Mm-hmm. So I think, like, especially for the people who have watched it, the scene where Keyleth goes and she is talking to the tree and she's reaching out for one of the roots, that was kind of a big thing in the actual arc, watching them do that at the table. And I think, like, that was like oh man, this is gonna happen. Then Grog grabs her, and then they go on. So it's kind of like,
that's what I'm saying. Like, if you haven't watched the thing, you wouldn't know the significance of that. You just see her reaching out for the root, and the guy grabs her, and you're just like,
right,
okay. But I mean, like things like that. Obviously, you're not going to get some inside stuff unless you've seen the live play. But I mean, other than that, I think it's really good.
Okay, Devin.
One other thing, though, I also thought that this was supposed to be the before part, like before people got to see?
Originally, that's what I thought too, but apparently not.
Well,
For those of you who want to know essentially where this picks up, because the Briarwood arc is the main arc of this animated series. If you want to go back and either listen or watch the campaign, I believe this arc is the 15. It's 15 episodes, and it takes place between episodes 24 and 38 on Critical Role Campaign 1. So
I will say, just to go back to Rob's point, though, there is part of the reason why I think everybody has a misconception is the people, the team behind Critical Role are releasing a multitude of other media as well that kind of covers things from their first campaign and other campaigns. So, for example, their book Kith and Kin came out, which is the story of Vex and Vex, written before the events of the I almost called their campaign 2 name, Vox Machina. So, like, that's that. I know they're doing origin comics of, like, I think Grog has one. So, like, there's a lot of mediums out there that might be doing it. And that might be why people thought that, because they probably said, oh, look, a sneak peek of some animation, and there was, like, a teaser picture of, like, the crew or something. You know what I mean? So, that's just my opinion. But I do have Kith and Kin, so I do know that is one of them.
Yeah. Devin, what about you?
I mean, initial take on it. I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed what I saw, and me coming in basically blind because I haven't seen any of Critical Role. Just because my schedule never lined up with Critical Role, and I just never got to dive in. And then I basically just never. I stopped listening to podcasts a while back, so I just never really got into it. That's one of the things I was talking to you about before. I was like, if I get some time, I think I may go back and listen to Critical Role. And I was like, do you think I should start it before the show, or will you wait and see until they do the show, because it's supposed to be covering some stuff that they went through. That's my counter question to you in a second here, but just initially off. For genre wise, it matches up. I'm also big fan of animation.
I think the animation style in this is phenomenal.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of just animated in general. Not just anime, but animation in general. One of the main reasons why I loved Invincible. That was amazing. Prime actually has been killing it pretty good in their animation this year. Big fan of that. Genre wise, D&D. Obviously, I love D&D. I wouldn't be here if I didn't, for the most part. So I guess my back question to you, Webby, is based on what you've seen so far, do you think, I know Rob kind of mentioned that some of this, some stuff is getting, some stuff that was played up as significant in the tabletop is kind of not glossed over here, but kind of just referenced. Do you think it's worth the time to go back and, because it's it was 103 episodes, to listen to all of Vox Machina or whatever, season 1 or something like that? Do you think it's worth it to go back and listen to all those, or do you think this does a good enough job to get the gist without having to? And obviously they still have some more here. I don't know if they're going to continue with second season, if they're going to pick up that. Is that going to be a campaign 2 thing, or is that going to be, you know what I mean? But as of what you've seen so far and how they've done it so far up to this point, what do you feel? Do you feel it's
well? So with them being picked up for a second season, it's called The Legends of Vox Machina. I highly 99% sure they're not going to just dive into their campaign 2. There is so much more that they did in campaign 1 that they can cover in the animated show. This is really just the first. The Briarwood arc is one of the better arcs, but it's essentially one of the first arcs that they deal with in the Twitch when you sit down and watch them play. And they still have several other arcs to go through. So I'm pretty sure that they're going to cover probably those arcs in subsequent seasons if they keep getting renewed for this, which I'm sure they will. As far as do you have to go back and listen to appreciate the cartoon, the animated series? No, not at all. I think the animated series would be enough for you to get the story, and you're not going to miss. You might miss some of the subtle nuances, like some of the because they give nods to the people who watched them on Twitch, and even in the fight scene when they locked themselves in their castle and they were fighting like those ghosts or wraiths or whatever those were, the big fucking table that's in there is a replica of the table that they actually sit and play at. That's just a nod to their Twitch set, So there are like subtle things that, if you watch them on Twitch, you'll pick up on in the show, but I don't think that they're necessary for you to appreciate the campaign or the story aspect of it all. You can definitely just go into watching the Legends of Vox Machina completely blind and not even knowing about any of the Critical Role D&D Twitch stuff. Do I think it's worth going back and listening to? Absolutely. I mean, whether you watch it or listen to it on a podcast, there's only so much that they can shove into, a 25-minute cartoon.
Right. I mean, that's obvious from any scenario. You probably could say the same thing, like
I will say, the scene where the scene where they're in Whitestone. Spoilers for anybody who hasn't seen this show and is listening. The scene in where they show up in Whitestone and they see the people hanging from the tree. Now that's obviously, they're dressed up like Vox Machina hanging from that tree in the show. You can tell that is supposed to be them. But if you go back and you listen, or if you watch the episode where it shows them sitting at the table and Matt is describing, you see this figure, and then to the left of that, you see this figure, and to the left of that. It takes the cast a good solid, minutes for them to realize that that's supposed to be them. These people are depicting Vox Machina. And what I'm really glad for that they didn't do in the animated series is when Matt was describing that scene at the table, they even hung a bear to represent Trinket. So, I mean, that was one of the big, the cast was like, oh, fuck, that's us, So, I think especially watching old, Campaign 1 stuff, you get to see a lot of their emotions through some of those gut-wrenching moments.
Gotcha.
So, I definitely think it's worth watching and or listening if you can't watch it on YouTube. Worth it was a bad thing. I guess a better thing to say is not so worth it would be, do you think it's required? But you kind of answered that already. You said you don't think it's really required. It's just not at all.
It's not required. It's just a bonus.
Yeah. Yep. If you are one of those people who love Easter eggs and love seeing little things put into something that you've enjoyed, go back and listen to Campaign 1. Because they give little nods throughout the cartoon, which I don't even think I probably haven't picked up on all the Easter eggs. But me having gone through and see, and but also you also run the risk of going through, I listened to all of Campaign 1, and now having watched this, I know some of the things that I'm going to be expecting. I know what some of the things are that they've already showed that maybe you guys aren't aware of, and I guess that's kind of a spoiler for me, but at the same time, I've already listened to the story. So now I'm just getting to see the story that I love put into animation. So I guess it all depends on if you want things to get spoiled for you, or, I mean, I suppose if you wanted to, you guys could go back and start listening to Campaign 1 And when you start getting to the point where the animated series is, you guys can stop, continue watching the animated series, and then continue listening afterwards. But
Right.
it's all preference. You definitely don't need to listen to Campaign 1 to appreciate the cartoon.
Right.
So, let me shift gears here for a moment. As far as the animated series goes, sorry, I'm scratching my ear. Let's start with Avelos. There's only been 6 episodes that we've watched. They're 25-ish minutes long, so they're pretty short. What's your favorite moment that's happened so far?
So, one of my favorite, well, like I explained, I'm a sucker for more of the arcaneness of games and all that. I'm always the wizard, or mage. So one of the things that you never actually really see in at least the I'm gonna call it, I think it's Western style animation. That's the United States, right? I say says loves animation, doesn't know. So like from the United States perspective, art style of animation, we don't really show like resurrections or raising the dead at all. Like in many things, like it's always just like implied. So to see them animate, spoiler, Delilah using her necromancy to animate those wraiths that you were talking about, that was really cool. Like I've never seen it such like that. And on the converse side, seeing what it was to her, like almost becoming inhuman, like losing something to do, you know what I mean? The whole process was great and well done, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah, honestly, I wish, so I've been DMing for years and years and years now, and like I said, I watched the first arc, and looking at those things, I really wish I could definitively say what those were, but I can't. They were ghosts or wraiths or possibly whites. I'm not exactly sure.
I know whites have life drain, so they might have been whites. I was kind of speculating on that myself because I kind of hooked my roommate on the show too. So
I will say that was a gnarly episode when those things started to rip people apart and all that black ooze and stuff was coming out, and that was a good episode for sure. Rob, what was one of your favorite moments so far out of the 6 episodes that we've seen? You're muted.
I kind of like the part where Vax, I think, the guy.
Yep, Vax.
Jumps out the window, after getting bit, he jumps out the window and then have that fight in the fountain outside. I like that part.
Yep. Devin, what about you?
Honestly, I think one of my favorite parts so far was just like that in the first 2 episodes, the twist with the black dragon.
Okay.
Or the blue dragon.
Yep. The blue dragon.
Yeah, how they kind of set it up to be, you thought it was going to be one guy, and then all of a sudden it went the other way.
Yep, Prim Scythe.
Yep. So I really enjoyed that. I thought they handled that really well too.
So, for me, I have a 3-way tie, and they're not big. I guess. Well, they are epic moments, but the 3 things for me, in order of least. Is the wrong word, but my top 3 moments, starting with, I guess, the least. I don't know how else to word that. Seeing Simon. Simon is Vax's snake belt. That was something that was referenced on the tabletop a lot. He had this belt that he could take it off and it would turn into a snake. And it would, do its thing, and then it would always come back to him and just kind of rewrap around his waist and turn back into a belt. So it was cool seeing that animated. Second, watching Keyleth wild shape. Especially in the last episode, the one that we just finished watching with you, Devin, where she's in the hallway and she sees one of those resistance members get pretty much brained by that hammer, and she just slowly
She got glenned.
She goes down onto all fours and then she
Spoiler
just
for
turns into
Walking
a
Dead.
giant ass fucking tiger. I love seeing the animation of Keyleth wild shaping, but I honestly, hands down, my favorite moment was also involving the Blue Dragon when they were fighting the Blue Dragon, and they all finally started working together to bring it down to a level where Grog could get to it, and Grog saying he wanted to rage, because that was his catchphrase through all of Campaign 1. Was anytime he would rage, he says, "I would like to rage." And just seeing that and that animation style, like where his eyes just go just all white, and you see his body bulk up and his foot, breaking the stone beneath him. Man, that moved me. It makes me want to replay my barbarians. Man, I don't know what else to ask. That's just,
I have something I can throw in there for you.
Sure.
So of those, so we all know the voice actors who play the characters. Which one of the voice actors or actresses or whatever they want to identify as, and the characters they play are your favorite? So I can lead with that. So I can lead with that. I love Laura Bailey. 100% Laura Bailey lover because she plays Jaina and a whole bunch of other voices that I didn't know until I pulled up her Wikipedia page.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not a fan of Vex. She's a great character, don't get me wrong, but it's not there for me, which I thought it was. The one I'm actually enjoying the most, oddly, is Sam Wrinkles' character for Scanlan.
Scanlan is fucking phenomenal.
Scanlan's great.
One of the greatest parts watching Campaign 1, watching them play, is every time Scanlan did something like Healing Word or something that involved him singing, Matt had him sing. And he would constantly always sing what's it called when you take a song but then you replace the words? It's
parodies or whatever?
A parody, yeah. He would always do a parody of, another song. And that was one of Sam's, funniest moments. Sam Riegel as an actor is he's a character. I even told Ross when I was originally watching Campaign 1, I was like, hey, you should look into this, because a lot of the times watching Scanlan interact in-game reminded me of Ross, because Ross would always walk around and he'd always have a guitar in his hand or a ukulele, and he's constantly singing stuff, and it definitely reminded me of Scanlan. I will say when he fell off the cliff and he used that big purple hand to raise himself back up, that was the spell Bigby's Hand, which is a 5th level spell, which if you're going, they don't have to because it's an animated cartoon, but if you're going for D&D realism, I guess, for him to have a 5th level spell, that means they're at least level 9.
But wait, wasn't this originally played in 4th?
No.
Wasn't?
No.
I thought season 1 of Critical Role was originally in 4th, wasn't it? Nope. The first part of Critical Role.
No, maybe their home campaign, but no, I think it was all 5th. They didn't have the powers and stuff like the 4th edition had.
Oh, one second.
Not that I remember.
I do have a question though. For you, Webby.
Okay.
Obviously this is going to be hard to pinpoint specifically. This dialogue, is a lot of this dialogue written, or is it reenactment of actual cast interaction?
I think they had writers go back and watch the episodes of the cast interactions, and then they rewrote it in a more scripted dialogue, like what a writer would do for an animated show.
So they did what I had said I was going to do. with you and Rob.
Till he's
one
stuck.
game I thought about it for a long time, and I still want to do it one day. But that's just like such a project. When we were doing when I was doing Call of Cthulhu, where I was going to have you guys do it, like play the game, and then I was going to go back and listen to it again, like take out the dice rolls, and then have you guys like basically line out your like type out and line out your actual like choices and stuff. But the choices with the dice to figure out what happened, and then have you guys recite those. And then I was going to release two different episodes at a time. Where one was going to be like the actual play, and one was going to be like the reenactment to make it seem more like a story. But that was, I thought about it for a long time. Like that is a lot of work. And then I got a new job, and I don't have that kind of time anymore. So.
What I was going to say, we've barely spoken in months, and I'm like, how are you going to do this? But that does sound fun.
This was an idea I had a while back when I had more time. I still want to do it at some point because I think it'd be dope AF. But yeah.
But time and life and money.
Time and life and all that other fun stuff, exactly.
Yeah. So I think leading on from that, I did have one other thing to say that I find interesting. Yet again, you're all going to hate me, Dylan, on the magic. It's very hard for you to take something like D&D formatting, where every spell is like a level, like you were talking about Bigby's hand and all that. And I go towards like the fight scene in the courtyard that was really cool between the Briarwoods and Vox Machina. What was Delilah doing? Like that, the spell, like when you animate magic, it's always the same thing. But when you have people who are going to compare it to, say, D&D logic, like what was she doing? Because there's nothing that I know of that dark, shadowy magic slams into Pike and bursts through her. And then it's not even like that one time. That was the most aggressive. But every other couple seconds, she was throwing around shadows. Like, where is that and can I sign up? Because I want it.
I was thinking about that too.
I mean, I'm pretty sure it's probably just written off that she's an NPC who is an NPC who is a vampire necromancer. So like she has access to different shit.
True, that's fair. I'm just thinking about like because at least the other ones that everybody else is doing, you can tie back like Keyleth with sunlight or daylight.
Yeah, and also to go back to what Webby was saying, I just looked it up. So when they began streaming, the characters had reached level 9.
Yeah.
So he would have had Bigby's hand. In their home campaign they had to be in 40 in their home campaign because their campaign that became Critical Role began in 2012, and 4E didn't come out until 5E didn't come out until 2015, I believe. So they would have been playing 4th, which came out in 2008 when they first came out, or 3rd, but I'm pretty sure they're probably playing 4th. Because I remember like Matt Mercer did something with 4th edition. Like he was like, I feel like I remember him doing something with like 4th edition, like advertising 4th edition, vaguely. But yeah, I feel like he. I'm muted, or Rob's muted, or Webby's muted.
No, Webby's muted.
Oh, I'm muted. I was talking. God dang it.
Yeah,
Yep.
No, yeah. So, did you hear what I said about them being level 9?
Yes. Yep.
Yeah, yep. So yeah, when they began streaming in 2015, where they started streaming it, they were level 9, so that makes sense. And yeah, they began their home campaign in 2012, but they didn't start streaming until 2015. So then in 2012, that would have made sense for them to be in 4th ed, so they probably just converted it to 5th ed when they came over.
Now I was thinking about that spell because Avelos, you and I had that discussion the other day.
Mm-hmm.
If she is, say she's not just an NPC class, if she were to actually be a class, which I don't remember, I'm guessing she would be something along the lines of a warlock.
Who is it?
Delilah Briarwood.
Let me see.
See
if the wiki list what she is.
She's a wizard because she's a former. Like if you spoilers She was an Archmage of Antiquity, or something. She was part of the Cerberus Assembly. So
Right, no, I get that. I'm just trying to see they list her actual class. They don't. They list her level and they list her AC, but they don't tell us her what was her composition as a NPC, if that makes sense.
Yeah, she is a wizard, School of Necromancy.
Yeah. So she has shield, hold person, invisibility, misty step, counterspell the spell magic, haste, blight, dimension door, disintegrate, finger of death, clone, feeble mind, power word, stun, and prismatic wall.
Yeah, I just think that continuing your thought, Webby, but I was going to say I thought they definitely created her. If not during when they were playing, maybe not so much. So maybe that was when they took it from, depending your thought. But they've definitely referenced her afterwards.
Yeah,
and created her into something, at least from the game perspective. Animation completely aside.
You're muted.
I looked up on the Critical Role wiki, and they did start off as 4th edition, but only for a short time. Then they switched to Pathfinder for most of the time that they were off screen, and then when they started the game, the game to stream it, they switched to 5th edition.
That makes sense. I do want to play the new Pathfinder too at some point. I got to get the stuff.
I do remember them. They do reference when you watch them playing on like their old Geek and Sundry set and whatnot. Matt, like they do get some of the rules mixed up, and he's like, "Oh no, that was Pathfinder," because that's what they played during their home campaign was Pathfinder. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know. I'm going to find an answer about this, about what spell she was cast, like specifically what spell she cast on Pike that went through her and broke her thing.
He's going to call Matt Mercer.
Yeah, if I have to, I will. I will reach out to Matt Mercer. I'll be like, "Yo,
he has one favor from Matt Mercer. He's willing to cash in just for that."
Yeah, be like, "Yo, what spell was Delilah casting on Pike?" So,
I honestly think, like, I mean, do what you want to search for, but I think it's just creative liberty,
it very well could be,
because
they said too that it wasn't actually a curse on Pike, that it was all in her head, so maybe she didn't do anything.
Well, no, she definitely had a spell cast at her because you see it go through, and then that's what breaks her holy symbol. But whether it be blight or what, I mean, I could probably even go back and watch the episode where that happened and see if Matt says what he casts, essentially using her. So,
I mean, it's not super important. It's just I'm always fascinated because obviously you can tell like a bow strike or you can tell like a whatever, but when it comes to things that are
Bigby's hand or like in the hallway where Scanlan tried to cast lightning bolt, because that was a big thing. Was Scanlan would always cast lightning bolt at people, but if you ever watched like the original campaign 1 intro that they made, he shoots lightning bolt out of his crotch. That was his big thing. He always shot lightning bolt out of his crotch.
You would think there'd be a singe.
Yeah. So going back to Avelos' question, as far as whether it be voice actor or character, you asked us who our favorites are.
Yeah, so to just recap, because we've had a minute in between. If you had like other characters of Vox Machina, and like I said, for me it was voice actor based. Like love the Laura Bailey, and then you would go and but she plays Vex, whom great character, not my favorite. Do you have one of the characters that is a favorite of yours, or anything of the sort?
All right, well let's start that with Rob. You're muted again. Do you have a favorite character so far of these 6 episodes that we've seen? Who's your favorite out of Vox Machina?
Not really.
Okay. So you just do you feel like you haven't watched enough of it to garner a favorite, or do you just not like the characters enough to have a favorite?
It's not that I don't like. It's like I like them all, but I don't particularly like one over the others. It's not like I don't like them.
Okay.
I don't. I just yeah. I don't know. They're all kind of like I don't know. No one stood out to me as being above the rest, but I like all the characters.
Okay. Devin, what about you?
I think my favorite character is probably Caliph.
Keyleth, all right.
Yeah, I like Caliph. I think the druids, that.
Marisha Ray gets a lot of flack through campaign 1 from viewers and fans, because going from whether it was going from a home game to coming onto set and having all these people watching you now and how nerve-wracking that could possibly be. Marisha played Keyleth off just like she was portrayed in the show, where she's very nervous, and sometimes she doesn't cast the right spell, and that's that's a player mistake, not necessarily a character mistake. Like when she shot lightning bolt at a blue dragon, or call lightning on a blue dragon. So Marisha got a lot of flack from people through Arc 1, but I think it just added to
the charm.
The charm and the dynamic of the group. She is arguably one of the youngest characters in Vox Machina, and she has a very heavy mantle on her shoulders to try to carry through her Armente and doing all that. Also, this is a lot of the actual cast members were new to D&D. This was Travis Willingham. This was an introduction to D&D for him when they played at their home game before they started actually streaming it for Geek and Sundry. And it was all because essentially I believe it was Liam who approached Matt, and I want to say it was Sam's birthday. I think they were doing it for Sam, and Liam's like, "Hey, can you run a D&D game for some of us as a birthday, thing for Sam and whatnot?" Because Sam was definitely very new to D&D. He didn't know what spells he had or how to use them, and it all added to the charm of them learning as a group.
It was Liam. I think it was Liam's birthday.
Was it Liam's birthday?
Yeah.
I knew it was for a birthday.
Yeah, because they pulled in because the reason Ashley Johnson joined them is because Liam was working with her, and they needed somebody to pull in, and that was the deal. So, but just to correct you on that thought, but I agree. And also, I like Devin's thought. If I had to, I like Scanlan because of the funny and all of that, but Keyleth is definitely my number 2, just from a character perspective, because I think that's everybody. She represents everybody else. That's the one you can default into and you're nervous and all that. So it's a great, if you're not the stereotype in every the other directions. So,
I hands down my favorite character, Grog. All through campaign 1. I fucking love Grog. If I had a spirit animal, Grog is it. I think Travis plays him awesome. He plays to his semi-low intelligence, but every so often has that, that pearl of wisdom. And, he says something smart, and then the second he says something smart, somebody comments on how smart it was, and then Grog, he just plays it off like, I don't remember what happened, And watching his interaction with Pike, because in campaign, in the first campaign, Pike and Grog were besties, and it was always sad because Ashley at the time was shooting Blind Spot, and so there was a lot of time in campaign 1 where she'd be back for 2 or 3 sessions, and then she'd have to leave for a month and go to New York and shoot Blind Spot, and then she'd be able to come back. So she was in and out of campaign 1 constantly. But just seeing Grog and Pike interact with each other, I think is probably my favorite. So, all right. Do any of you have questions that maybe I can answer? I don't. Probably not, but
Off the top of my head, I don't have any, but I'm sure I'm just gonna pop up. Message you later about it. Ask you next time about it.
So, Rob, I have a question for you. Of all the people that I've seen, because you've seen all the episodes to date, correct? I'm not like making an assumption.
Episodes of what? Of the cartoon? Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, I was about to say the whole reason we hear, okay, bye everybody, we're done. He doesn't remember. Seeing that the gift that's posted right there, I would think Percy, just from that mask. I don't know why, because I think it's
as Rob's favorite.
Yeah, because he has a witch doctor's mask. Don't you, Rob? Didn't you the one who have that? Not a witch doctor. I'm sorry, plague doctor.
I don't have the plague doctor's mask either.
He has a jester's mask.
I made all of this up. Forgive me, I'm drunk.
Wow, Avelos thinks Rob's real dark. You got a real dark soul, Rob.
He does, and then he tries to laugh about everything. I swear to you.
I will say I feel like I do see Percy being one of Rob's favorites later on.
It's not like I don't like them.
No, I'm not saying that you don't like them, but I mean everybody tends to gravitate towards a favorite eventually. And if you don't have one yet, that's perfectly fine. I'm just saying I'm putting money on the fact that I think Percy's going to be one of your favorites later on.
Okay. I mean, I don't really have a favorite of season 2 either.
Listen, you can't be devil's advocate all your life and just like everybody all the time.
Okay.
You can't. You gotta have a favorite.
I can say this: my favorite air quotes NPC, 100%. I forgot the name already, but Sean's ghost. This little ghost helper that flies around in a shop.
Oh, Rodrigo.
Yeah, Rodrigo.
Yep.
Love Rodrigo. That's my boy.
Gilmore is fucking fantastic. I love Gilmore.
Yeah, Gilmore's dope.
They're also, I don't know if anybody else has noticed, they're in almost every episode, there tends to be an NPC somewhere in either the background or whatever. A lot of them, obviously, voiced by Matt Mercer. But there tends to be an NPC that looks like Matt Mercer.
Yep.
Like in one of them, it was the guy who took all the weapons when they went to the banquet. And then they had to get them back, and Grog just threw his ass against the wall.
Yep.
Another one, I think it was one of the ones that was playing with Trinket at one point outside. But yeah, every episode tends to have one that looks like Matt Mercer. Let me see. I don't think I have any other questions. I mean, there's only 6 episodes out, and again, they're only 25-minute episodes, so I don't even necessarily know that we have enough that would make like a movie length quite yet. Well, maybe, yeah. All 6 of them probably about a movie length, but
yeah, but so
we're also like mid-arc, so
I was gonna say, so we're 6 out of 12 in, right? The questions are, there's not really so many questions. It's more as like, I like this and I love that.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like things that are happening. I guess my question is there anything that is so different from, let's say, the campaign arc setting to the point where we are now that you're like, they changed that? And do you approve? Maybe only one or two. And do you approve of the change because it went from a game that was on a live stream to an animation?
Before you answer, I can tell you one thing that changed apparently, because I looked up the episode to see what maybe they said what spell that they used on Pike, but apparently Pike was not in that fight in the original live play. It was a guest star playing a tiefling named Lilith, who was with them instead of Pike. So Pike wasn't even in that fight in the original show.
Really?
So I don't know what spell. Yeah,
Oh.
they had a guest star playing a tiefling named Lilith during that fight.
I don't remember Lilith.
So she was disguised as a human servant, but then
Was that Mary McLaughlin's character?
let me see.
Season 1 or campaign 1 had a lot of special
Kit Buss.
guests. Who?
It says Lilith the Tantray, the Tiefling Wizard guest Kit Bus.
Oh, I don't remember.
Currently disguised as a human servant, enters the scene, and the Seeker Asylum appears out of a wardrobe into the Briarwood's bedroom before leaping down to Vax and pulling him away from the attacking nobles. I don't even know who Seeker Asium is either. ASSUM. So apparently
Seeker
they were
Assume?
involved.
Yeah.
Yeah, Seeker Assume and
they showed them
Lilith
at the
Victoria.
banquet hall, and it was like one of those things where like they announced them, they showed them, and then they continued announcing people, and they switched scenes, so it happened very fast.
Apparently, him and Lilith were involved in the fight, and Pike was not, so they changed that. But that's why I guess that's why you don't recognize whatever she did to Pike, because she didn't.
Oh, maybe. I do know that they had the older brother from Boy Meets World. I forget his name. He was a special guest.
It was just on the tip of my tongue. I'll remember it when you're mid-sentence without talking about something else.
They also had Felicia Day was a special guest. They had what's the guy from Star Trek there, Rob? Will Wheaton was a special guest. They also had the guy from he does all like the Comic-Con panels. Man, I'm real bad with fucking words and names today.
So,
let's see.
Wilford Dell.
Wilford, yeah, that was, yeah.
See, I told you, mid-sentence about something else. According to the Wikipedia.
Jason Charles Miller.
Yep, he's their guy who does their music.
Yeah, Chris Hardwick was the one that I couldn't think of just a second ago. He was a special guest, which I believe Vex ended up stealing something from him. And then because she did that, Matt actually ended up giving her an alignment shift. Oh yeah, I kind of do remember the Tiefling Wizard now because she was albino. She was like a pure white Tiefling.
Yeah,
Patrick Rothfuss,
who was the guest that played Lilith, is not an actor. She's the artist that created Critical Role's portraits.
Yeah.
There you go.
Let's see, Chris Perkins. Will Wheaton, Darren DePaul, who voices Reinhardt in Overwatch, was a special guest. John Heater, I think, is Napoleon Dynamite. I don't remember. I don't know how to pronounce his last name. But yeah, they had a lot of guest stars in Campaign 1.
Apparently, Felicia did a thank for Critical Role because it says here that Ashley Johnson was talking to her about the home game that they were playing, and she's the one that invited them to come on the Geek and Sundry and play it.
Well, yeah, because Felicia Day is, I believe, I want to say, like, CEO of Geek and Sundry. She's like the creator.
Yeah, sure, she's like a creative director or something, yeah.
Yeah. So.
I think that now that I have the Wikipedia up, there's a lot of guest characters.
Yeah.
And you know what? I know nobody answered. Is there any roles that you can... Is there any scenes that you can think of that, from what we have seen as an animation, they've changed really quickly? If not, I have a follow-up question if you can't.
From what they've covered so far, ones that they've changed from the campaign to the thing. I know. I feel like I know. I talked to Rob about this. Is when they get to Whitestone and they talk to Keeper Yen and they bring the party down into like the basement of like a tavern. And it's all like already like you see the sun tree of roots coming in, and they have like their table set up and everything. If I remember correctly, in the actual campaign, they do hide in the basement of a tavern, but Keyleth ends up doing a lot of meld stone or move earth. She ends up digging a hole for them to hide in, and that's where she ends up running into the sun tree roots, because she digs far enough in where she ends up uncovering the roots of the sun tree. So I mean, that was a little bit different because they didn't have her do any of like the move earth or whatever. So
Makes sense. No, well, I just know that like there's practicality and adaptability in animation. So, sometimes you have to.
I will say, okay, one thing that they didn't show and that they haven't touched upon yet that was I feel like was a big deal, because when you start off Critical Role Campaign 1, like the very first one that was on Twitch that they broadcasted, they're in like a dwarvish city. They end up going into like the Underdark for a while before they come back and deal with Percy's story arc and all this. And before that, so something that happened essentially in the home game is they had met with Allura, who, if you look in the general chat right now, she's the one covering her face. They end up going into her tower, and something happens where her tower starts to get destroyed and starts toppling over. And the group, or one of the members, tries to grab a rug to use as almost like a parachute to try to slow their fall, and ends up being a flying carpet that the party ends up keeping and having with them. And I'm surprised they haven't shown that yet. But yeah, otherwise, no. I mean, I can't think of too many things that they haven't shown or anything that they've changed directly.
Okay. I mean, yeah, I would agree with you. I think something like that.
It's also been years since I've seen Campaign 1. So.
Fair. I know because I watched the first episode like once or twice just to rewatch it because get over the shock factor, and I watched it during the day when it first came out on Friday during lunch. But Allura, like, she was like, "Oh, ragtag band." Like, she didn't have much of a reaction. It wasn't great. It wasn't like, "Who's this?" But you know what I mean.
Right.
So.
Well, I mean, with that, we're at about the hour mark already. If anybody has any closing thoughts on the show, questions, if you want any spoilers, I'm not going to give them. Can't. Sorry.
No, I don't want any spoilers.
I'm the one who doesn't care about spoilers in this group.
I don't usually care either, but this is releasing on a regular. It was releasing like once a week. I'd be like one episode every Friday. I'd be pissed. But yeah.
So here's my question now, regardless, not necessarily for the show, but are you guys more of a fan of, like, say, Amazon Prime's release schedule where they release 3 episodes a week? Or are you more of a fan of the 1 episode a week that, like, regular TV does, or like what Netflix does where it's like, here's all of a first season of a show?
Right. I don't know. I mean, I like Netflix sometimes because it lets me watch it at my own pace. Because then the issue sometimes too is sometimes they'll like do like that's like my issue with Young Justice right now. They released 13 out of 26 episodes in like weekly, and then they're on like a break, and then they're releasing part 2 at undetermined amount of time later. They start releasing that, so it's like I kind of forget about it in the interim. So like I feel like if I fall like a week or 2 behind, I can always go back, but then I always run the risk of forgetting about it, like coming out weekly. But if it's right there, it's one of those things I'm like, all right, cool, yeah, here we go. In 3 episodes, this works out perfectly because it's like I don't mind this either. Like this is fine. I would prefer not 1 episode every week though. That like I have too much stuff going on in my life where like it's like I need like that good like hour and a half where I can sit down and be like, all right, cool, I can bang out some episodes real quick.
Right.
I kind of agree with Devin. I like Netflix recently, and so like Arcane from Riot for League of Legends that tie-in, they did the 3 a week release for 3 weeks, so there was 9 total for them. I like the 3 format because it feels like you're not waiting a week for one episode to then have to wait for the next one. It's like a nice chunk of time you can block out, like especially with life. Like people love to binge, and I think this is the perfect balance between binge and like, you know what I mean? Like a release schedule, especially because animation takes so much time to create. So, you know.
What about you, Rob?
Give it now. Why wait?
So you're more of a fan of the Netflix thing where it's like, all right, just give me all of season 1.
Yeah,
Watch
kinda.
it. I'll watch it whenever I feel like watching it.
Yeah, and it's like, oh, this way it forces you. Like, I could watch 3 episodes and stop if that's what I wanted. Like, I don't have to watch all of it, so why not just give it all to me?
I will say, I think I'm more of a fan of the Netflix way. But if I'm going to have like that teaser kind of feeling, like you would if you were watching, say, like a regular TV show, and you have like one episode a week, and they leave you on that little cliffhanger, and it's like, you gotta wait till fucking next week to fucking do it, but you only got that one episode in. I would rather do it the Amazon Prime way, where it's like, okay, like even with the Wheel of Time, they gave us 3 episodes at a time, so we were able to watch the 3 episodes. But then when you're done that 3rd episode, you're like, God damn it, is it next Friday yet? I want more. Like, I don't like the feeling of wanting more, but at the same time, it gives me that craving. So when it does come out, I'm excited. So it's a little give and take. I like the excitement of looking forward to something to watch on a very specific, like next, this upcoming Friday, the next 3 episodes of Critical Role, or Legends of Vox Machina. But at the same time, I would probably be more inclined to say, yeah, just release all of them at once, and I'll just watch them as I want to. So. But then if you binge through every single fucking one of them and you blow through all of the first season, then you're like, God damn it. Now I have to wait for second season to come out. So.
Yeah. Plus, I don't know if you've seen, at least, I just noticed it the other day, that they're doing watch parties with people live in Twitch.
Yep.
So, like, you doing it the Netflix way, they couldn't do that.
Right.
So,
yeah.
like, I guess it like, to your point, it's a definite in between balance of whatever they want. Now, who says they may not do this for season 2? Because season 1 was funded by them and purchased by Amazon. So now that Amazon is going to front the money, it could completely change.
Right. Yeah. All right. Well, we're over the hour mark, so I guess we can end there unless anybody has any other questions or comments they want to make on the Legends of Vox Machina animated series on Amazon Prime Video. Shout out.
Free sponsor.
Not hearing anything. I guess that's the end of this episode. Rob, do we have a science corner? I think my mom asked you about a science corner this week.
Yeah, and I don't remember what it was. I've been racking my brain trying to think of it.
Yeah, I don't remember either. I remember her yelling at you.
I remember saying I knew the answer, and then you said something about, but if you know, that your mom was like, well, you could just argue anyway, like you're ice giants or whatever.
Yeah.
Now I can't remember what the question was.
Yeah, shit. It probably had to do with space. I don't know. My mom's spacey. Shit. I don't know. I honestly don't remember now. It was just like 2 days ago.
Yeah, I know. I don't remember either. I don't think it had to do with space this time, but
you know what?
what
Shout out to my mom. She's asked Rob lots of, science corner questions and whatnot. You need to start writing these down, Ma. You need to send them to Rob on Facebook or something.
He usually does.
Yeah.
That's when I remember is when she sends to me on Facebook.
Don't ever give Rob a science corner in person. No one will remember the conversation that we had, so write it down.
Breaking news. All Science Corner questions come from Webby's mom.
Most of them do.
So why is it science questions with Rob? Why isn't it like,
Because Rob looks up. She just has the questions, and Rob looks up the answers and has science corner. And then there's a barking dog. Oi!
Yep.
Hey!
I mean,
That
she's
is
quiet for now.
enough.
Yeah,
You are
she
grounded.
She's like, episode's almost over. I gotta
Go
get my
to your
opinion
room
in.
without dinner, even though your bowl's constantly full.
Mm-hmm.
She's got mouse brain again. She's in the kitchen sniffing the cabinets. All right, so no.
I remember what it was.
Oh.
It was how distilled water was made, because we were talking about.
Boiling water, and I thought that was distilled. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so distilled is boiled, but what happens is that with distilled water, because like in the grocery store, if it says spring water, that can be anything. Like it can be from a city reservoir or whatever. Distilled water, it has to be boiled. It's boiled in like a container, and as the water is boiled, it turns into like a mist, like normally, like if you're boiling stuff on the stove. So then there's another thing that collects the mist and reconstitutes it back into water. So as it's boiled into mist, it loses like all the stuff that was in it, stays behind, like any kind of minerals or metals or whatever. Right. It stays in the pot that's been boiled, whereas the water is now completely and utterly free of anything. So that's distilled water is basically flat, just water, nothing else in it, no minerals, no vitamins, no anything.
Now, I remember part of this conversation, isn't distilled water not good for you to drink?
I mean, it's fine for you to drink, it just doesn't have anything. Like, sometimes people get, like, things like some vitamins or iron or whatever from water. Usually, distilled water, I mean, it's basically just flat and just water. Like, you can drink it just fine. It's just, they use that in a lot of medical equipment, like for my CPAP machine, I'm supposed to use distilled water. I use tap water, and then I just wash it out. Because it does the same thing where it like turns the water into mist to keep your nose and stuff from drying out. So you're supposed to use distilled water because then it ends up leaving all the crap on the bottom of the thing. So, but I clean it out. So I still use, but distilled water is supposed to be for stuff like that. You can drink it. It's not going to hurt you to drink it. It just doesn't have anything in it. It's just plain water.
All right. Well, there we go. Now I know.
Yeah, a lot of times when people have allergies to certain things that could be in water, you use distilled water. Like, it's basically just like if you're worried about anything, drink distilled water instead of spring.
Right. All right. And do we have a life advice with Devin? Devin, you got life advice for any of us? I want my fortune cookie, Devin.
I have a visual bad life advice, but that's going to be for after this.
Oh, okay.
Life advice is hard, folks, sometimes, especially when it's like...
You can't say when you're caught off guard. We ask you this
I'm not off guard. It's just I don't have any like wisdom. It quotes in my head right now. Be your own cheerleader, everybody.
I'll always go back to my oldie but a goodie life advice. When you're sliding down the banister of life, make sure all the splinters are facing the right way.
Yes. Or equally, never keep your lube and your icy hot next to each other.
Oof.
Wow.
Oof. That's good life advice.
Here I thought we were being like super for real. I was about to give a heartfelt quote.
I mean, you
more
can.
Welcome. Yeah, special guest Avelos life advice. Let's go. We don't pay extra for this, just so you know.
Yes, you do in different ways.
No, we don't.
No. We've spoken to the SU lawyers who can't afford it.
We should create a new, whenever Avelos is the guest star, we'll create a new section. It's the I hate it here moment with Avelos.
Yes, always. No. So probably some really good life advice. I have heard that whatever is when you're working towards something, you always shoot for the moon, because even if you fail, you reach the stars.
There you go.
There you go.
And
did they wash the spaghetti?
My visual life advice is: if you ever find yourself making spaghetti, but you really want Alfredo, if you put it in the dryer, or the washer, it will undo it.
Scientifically, the stars are way farther away than the moon, so you're more likely to miss those. But
You know what, Roberto?
Alrighty! Where can people find you on the internet, Avelos?
Considering the last time I was on here, I gave the wrong Twitter handle, and I still don't remember the right Twitter handle. Will come back to me.
Okay, where can people find you on the internet, Rob?
you can find me on Twitter at Confessor_X and on Twitch at twitch.tv/ConfessorX.
And where can people find you, Devin?
You guys find me on Twitter at DMP_Puke. You can find me on Twitch and Mr. D3. And as always, you can find me on eBay. You're gonna buy some new life advice books because, I need to be helping you guys out with some life advice.
All right, coming back to Avelos, where can people find you on the internet?
So it is Avelos on Twitter.
Avelos on Twitter. And as always, everybody, you guys can follow me on Twitter at JaxForestWalker, all one word, on Twitch at DMWebby, and on eBay at Washing Devin Spaghetti, which honestly sounds way worse now that I said it out loud than it did in my head.
Sounds terrible.
Thank you for listening. I hope you enjoy, and fuck Booster Gold.
Feel so scarred.
I do every week. I can't wait for Ross to make some of these intro music so I can just periodically throw one in there and just confuse people. Washing Devin Spaghetti.
But why though?
Oh, it sounds so bad when you say it out loud.
Just a bit.